Hi guys, welcome back to the Forgetful Scholar, and today we're going to chat about books. So, a book and a DNF. A soft DNF, maybe, if I can remember. So we're going to start with the DNF first, and it's contemporary suspense romance. And it is the 3-week deal, West Oak Heroes, Book 4 by Hannah Shield. Now, I really okay, so I read 100 pages of it. Had to put down. And it's enemies to lovers. And you guys know, if you guys watched me for a little bit, you know enemies to lovers is my favorite trope. So I'm super, super picky about it. Because it's such an easy trope to not get right? Because like there's just a certain line of perfectness. Like the sweetheart equation. You know, it's just this perfect, where the story is just like, oh, so full of like misunderstandings and yearnings, and I love it. But it's so easy for it to go one way or the other. So it's so easy for it to be like, the reason they're enemies is so intense and so absolute that you don't really believe that they can move on from that, because the author didn't put the work in for there to be forgiveness to the point where like, I'm like, okay, yeah, they made up for it. You know what I mean? Or it's on the other side of the spectrum where the issues are so inflated, you know, and it just seems like, what the hell's wrong with you? Why are you angry? Like, why do you hate this person for that? That's weird, right? And the first Hannah Shield book I read was Enemies to Lovers. I freaking loved it. It was perfect. I think I gave it a 5 stars. So I had high hopes, right? This involves Angela, who is a police officer in the West Oaks, and in one of the books, I think like the second one, she gets shot. She's a secondary character to get shot, and a fireman, Mateo. Now, the reason for hating each other is ridiculous. And then like it just gets pushed to a side like on page 90 because they're hot for each other. So there wasn't any like real work done to actually make them enemies, and no work done to actually make them get to a place where they could forgive each other and be with each other, right? So like there was no work done, and I was like, okay. And the thing is, I really wanted to like Angela so much, but I hated her. She annoyed the shit out of me. So like she's a cop, right? And we're in her POV. We split between her and Mateo. We're in her POV. And she jumps to assumptions a lot. Like, cue the dog. So Mateo, his brother died like last year or something, recently. And his sister-in-law and his niece have to live with need to crash on his couch for a little bit while they find a place, you know? So she thinks that they're a couple, right? I get it. This seems to be like a setup for a big misunderstanding that, you know, get sorted out later once they're kind of on the road to liking each other, right? At least that's what I thought. What had happened, like that issue, that like bump in the road was completely just taken care of a couple pages later, like the next chapter, and in such a weird way that didn't endear me to Angela. So they hate each other, blah blah blah. But she has to crash at his house because his landlady is her best friend. Convoluted, who cares? Anyway, so like they're like hate each other, which again is a stupid reason. Stupid reason. Her apartment was set on fire, and he was the fireman that evacuated and put out the fire. She, after having drinks with her friends, so alcohol, she went to go get her neighbor's dog. Completely, not even telling the fireman about the dog, just completely going in it, risking her life. He helps her so she doesn't break her neck. He's like annoyed. He's like pissed off because this is his first time being in charge. Okay. She's pissed off. I don't freaking know why. But it's not a likable scene for either of them. So the reason to hate each other is stupid, right? So, and then, you know, they're on the couch when he comes home from, I think being the designated driver for his buddies, right? So he comes home, he's on the couch, he's gonna sleep on the couch, right? They have a talk, he hits on her, because he's like, yeah, I hate her, but she's hot. And I was like, oh god, okay. And then she just assumes that Emily and him are together, so she thinks he's a cheater, and she like throws water on him and like walks away. And I don't know, that part of it really didn't sit well, because even when we're in her POV, when shitty stuff is happening to her work, we don't get like so the second book I read this week, also one of the main characters was a detective, right? And they did a good job of us seeing their thought process, collecting clues and following the clues, not making the clues fit what he thought, right? And that was really done well. So after that book I read this one, I could really tell like how lacking that kind of thought process was for Angela, and how we weren't along for the ride because we're in her POV, which was disappointing, I think. So she jumps to like assumptions, and like as a cop, don't do that. Like, no. So I was like, and I'm like, no, Angela, I really wanted to like you. Why are you so freaking annoying? Also, why I had to DNF it, everybody annoyed the shit out of me in this book. I mean, everybody. Angela, Mateo, he was annoying. His sister-in-law, her recently widowed sister-in-law, pissed me off. I was like, okay. His friends annoyed me. Her friends annoyed me. Hell, her neighbor annoyed me. Like, even the 6-year-old niece, which normally I think I find kids adorable addition to books, pissed me off. So that's when I was like, wow, maybe as a mood reader, I'm just not in the space for this. So let me soft DNF this. And come back to it later. I say that, but then I forget. I really should make a list. I should make a list of books I'm soft DNFing, so I know to come back to, like when I'm not in the mood to hate every single person in this universe. I say that probably as soon as I leave this room, I'm gonna forget about that. So everybody pissed me off. Like, it was ridiculous. I was like, okay, at some point you have to realize the problem is me. I am the problem. It's me. I am the problem. I need to come back to this later because obviously something is going on with me and I'm being a bit of a bitch. So, man. And, to be fair, contemporary romances I usually hate. You know what I mean? The fact that I read 2 that I loved in the 4 or 5 star range and 2 I DNF from this author is actually really good for me. Like, pat on my back. Yeah, that's pretty good for me. And really good for the author, because I am horrible when it comes to contemporary romance. So I'm still gonna check out this author's other books and stuff like that. Just sometimes a book doesn't hit, you know what I mean? Or you're like in such a horrible mood. Like the recently widowed sister-in-law pissed me off, and I was like, boy, I need to step away. And like, I could not give a shit about Angela or Mateo. I didn't care about the problems. I didn't care about the big suspense going on. Like, none of it intrigued me. So I was like, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. Yep, problems with me. Yep. So there's that. So the next book was a contemporary urban fantasy, paranormal romance, suspense romance, mystery, monster romance. It's The Dog in the Alley Beyond the Veil, book 4 by K.M. Avery. I loved it. I freaking love this. Like, 5 stars. I freaking love this. Now, this is a gay romance. So, if you've been here, I've really been enjoying Beyond the Veil series. It's sort of this world where an arcane virus spread, and people were either killed, turn into archhumans, which are people who are get psychic abilities like mediums, telepaths, things like that, or you become a nin. I believe it's pronounced nin. And that means you become like an orc or a vampire or ghoul, an elf, things like that. So the first 3 books we follow Ward, who is a very powerful medium, and Dr. Manning, or Mason, Dr. Mason Manning, who is a historian turned orc, and their romance and everything. And Ward works with the police department helping to solve murders. And the police detective he works with is Detective Hart, who is elf cop. He's an elf. And I always love, like, he was my favorite secondary character in the first 3 books because, like, like you picture this elegant, violet-eyed, regal-looking elf. I always think of Legolas from the Lord of the Rings movies. Yet he cusses like an impressive, imaginative, creative cusses too. It always makes me giggle because I am immature as hell. So I was like, oh, I really hope this author does a book with Hart, and they did. This is the book, and I loved it. I loved every moment of it. So we get so much backstory on Hart, obviously, because it's his book, including his first name, which has been like a closely held secret of his for the first 3 books. Like Edward doesn't know, Mason doesn't know, no one knows his name, right? Except his parents and his best childhood best friend. And I love it, and like I get why he does it. Especially now that he's like this elegant looking elf, and that name, I understand why he keeps it a secret. He gets called, like always, to a murder scene in an alley where Shifter is, their throats ripped out by a vampire. And then they find this, Ward and Mason are there helping out, and they find this dog in, trash bin. No. In the trash. So they find him in the trash. It turns out he's a shifter, but he's stuck in his dog form. So the whole book, we're in Hart's POV. He's taking care of this dog that he knows is a human and is like their prime, like, witness to this. Turns out to be a serial, like, a spree killing. Like, there's a lot behind this. Now, I don't want to get into too much detail about the mysteries, because he's a detective and he's working on more than one case at once, which makes sense. And one of the cases is really horrifying and leads to a bigger overarching, racist group that is literally skinning these people alive because they don't think they're people because they're shifters. It's really gross. And as you read it, like the depictions of the crime, and you can't help but like be disgusted that people would do this. You know what I mean? There's a lot of political stuff going on in this book, which kind of surprised me because it's a book about elves but there's so much wonderfully written, analogs about real life racism and politicians and all this shit. And it's really powerful. Some parts I was like, I was like, I got a little emotional. I really like this book. Because he's an elf, he's a Nid, and in this police force, he's like pretty much the only one in, especially in the homicide division, right? And when there is a protest, like only good Nin is a dead Nin outside, some of the people he worked with joins the protest, right? And I was like, oh, fuck them so hard. And then some of the people in his precinct that he didn't even realize were his friends or allies, or didn't see him as like a secondary, person, saw him as a person, stood by his side and protected him through that. And I got like a little emotional about that, because in his head, he thinks he's all alone. He doesn't think people like him. He calls himself an asshole. It's interesting in his head because when we're in the other, like Ward and Mason's, basically Ward's POV in the other books, Hart always seems so in control. Yes, he cusses, but very in control. Non-emotional person. But in his head, Hart's head, he's very emotional. He just suppresses stuff. And it's not that he likes to cuss. It's just that he's pretty awkward. And I kind of liked that bit of insight for him. He's really hard on himself. When he doesn't do something exactly right, he really beats himself up. And this whole time, like, I was kind of weirded out that, like, he started to feel a little bit for the dog, but then I remembered he's a shifter. And I've read weirder romances. Like, that one time I read that book, the Cthulhu romance, with the Cthulhu god reanimated a dead body and took it over, and then, like, the weird... So, like, I've read weirder. So I was like, you know what? He knows he's a person that's just stuck in a dog body. You know what I mean? It's not like anything happens or anything. Like, I don't want to... Nothing happens. Actually, this book is very, like, PG-13 when it comes to the romance. There's a lot of deep descriptions of the crimes and the murders, but there's a very slow burn, which normally would kind of annoy me, but, like, I loved it. I love the pacing of it, because usually these books, the pacing's a little off for me. pacing was perfect with this. I enjoyed it. And how messed up Hart is, and how much integrity he has, it makes sense it ended how it ended. So, and I will do so that is kind of the unspoiler part. Now spoilers. One of the murder cases is like the main woman that is in charge of the hate group. She's killed she's killed. So that's how they found evidence of shifters being skinned, right? Because she had it in her personal collection because she's a sixth. Anyway, that's important for later in the story, but we'll leave that there. So as it goes on, they figure out the case and figure out why Tavi, who is the shifter stuck in the dog, is stuck in the dog, and they fix it. And I love this book because it really opened up the world. We got a little bit more in depth with people, the good people he works with, normal humans and arcs, and, the normal people he works with. And then we get the world opened up, like a vampire vet and things like that. And an FBI agent, who, even though Hart didn't think they were friends, totally protective of Hart, very good friend. At one point, Hart is being targeted by corrupt cops because he's an elf. And the FBI agent, who's actually a tiger shifter, is like, I'm sleeping on your couch, nothing's gonna happen to you. And Hart's so surprised that these people that really care about him. Hart and Mason's friendship we could see it growing, and how much Mason and Ward think of Hart as a dear friend and family, and Hart didn't really realize that. So it's kind of very sweet. It's almost like laying the foundation for Hart to have a found family that he didn't realize he had. We find out about his childhood best friend, that he's still best friends. Found out about him, he's a badger shifter, which is really fascinating. So why Tavi and Hart didn't get together in this book makes perfect sense, right? Because Hart is on protection detail for Tavi, right? So when Tavi is a person again, able to shift back, Tavi kisses him, and Hart wants it, but he's like, no, we can't. I was protecting you. You don't really have feelings. This is just because I was keeping you safe. I'm not the hero you think I am. And Tavi's like, that's BS. Because Tavi, in his dog form, probably got a window into Hart's deepest parts that he keeps hidden more than anybody else. He was there during night terrors when Hart was throwing up because of the cases were really graphically horrible, crying. He was there for Hart in his dog form. And I guess for Hart, it was easier to accept that emotional connection when he was in his dog form. It was emotionally safer for Hart, right? So Hart's like, here, I'll give you my phone number, and in 6 months, if you still want to kiss me, call me. And Tavi's like, yeah, do it. And he's like, you're going to delete this in a month, right? And it makes sense because Hart has this amazing integrity. And I loved being in his mind when he's following these clues. Because like I said before, he's like, oh, I have a hunch that it's this. But I have a hunch that it's this woman who's her daughter is a social worker. So that's probably how she's getting this. The daughter's either involved or unknowing. And in his POV, he has all these options. He thinks it could be that the daughter is also racist and giving the mother, who's in charge of the hunting and skinning of these poor shifters, the information willingly. But he has all these other options that it could be, and he keeps himself open to what these options are, and he follows the evidence. He doesn't make the evidence follow what he wants. So in keeping his options open and following the evidence, we find out, no, the daughter actually is married to a shifter, completely severed contact with her mother, and it turns out, unknowingly to the daughter, they use the same cleaning service. The cleaning service the daughter uses is the mom's friend, and the daughter didn't know about it, So I liked being in his head for the investigation. And integrity, because his job is really weighing him down, right? He in this book, he turns 41 and the job is really weighing him down, how like he has a few people in the force that he can trust. And I think that was fair. Like, the author didn't do all cops are bad. You know, the author did like, no one is a monolith, including people who have the same job. And some cops were neutral, some cops were hateful, and some cops had his back no matter what, right? But I think it was a fair showing. And, you know, the job is like slowly kind of killing him, but he doesn't quit until this last moment, and that showed how much integrity Hart has. He hates the woman that died, the head of the racist group that wants him dead and all that, but he's doing his best to find out who killed her because that is his job, right? And the police chief, who is pretty nice guy in this, he got the police chief, probably from higher politicians or whatever, told Hart, you're not gonna like this, but you have to drop the case. And Hart's like, the fuck I will. He's like, no, it's been shut down. And that's when Hart had it. And he quits. And it's not because anything that was happening to him, like people going after him for being an elf cop. No, it's because of his integrity. He didn't like this woman. He didn't like what she was promoting, killing people, but he was doing his damn best to find out who killed her and bring justice. And being stopped because political bullshit, that's when he had it. And I was like, damn, that is like the best way to see who Hart is, the integrity. And it makes sense why he pushed Tavi away, because he doesn't want to take advantage. He thinks that Tavi's just grateful for him saving the life, and he doesn't want to take advantage. So it's such a wonderful moment that we see who Hart is. I'm like, oh, I liked this book before, but now I freaking love it. And then at the end, like the last paragraph, Hart gets a phone call that he doesn't know the number to it, and it's Tavi. And Tavi's like, because like it's 6 months later, and Tavi's like, I still want to kiss you. And I was like, yeah, go Tavi. So the next book, it seems like a building of their relationship, so I'm very excited about it. I kind of had to stop myself from like immediately reading it. I want to like sit with this cute romance for a little bit before I hop into the next book of them. But I'm really enjoying Beyond the Veil series. I'm having a blast. And this book was a lot more political and racially charged than the last books. And I really enjoyed it. I really, really did. And Hart is a fantastic character. Not just because he's an elegant elf that cusses like a sailor. And some of his cusses are super creative. I'm like, damn, I want to remember this one. I really want to remember this one. This one is so great. Like, if someone pisses me off and I say this to them, they're not gonna know what hit them. You know what I mean? But I loved seeing a cop character so, like, he just has so much integrity. And he's so hard on himself. So I'm like, oh, I want him to have a happy ending. You know what I mean? So that was this week. I know, this was a weird week. Loved a book, hated a book. Like, I don't know where my mind, state of my mind was. Why I went from loving one book and then like a day later hated another one so much. But hey, that's what happens when you're a mood reader, I guess. I guess I was just having a bad day. Anyway, I don't want to, but it's time for me to get back to the real world. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.